have to let somebody in.
Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here. First, I want to thank Hannah, Merle, and CAA, and everyone who was a part of making this event happen. It's needed. And we are so glad to be here and to be a part of the conversation, to edify us all and to bring some hope. I am Serenity. I'm accompanied by doula Shamika, as well as some of our doula colleagues and sister friends on Zoom, doula Shah, doula Britt, and doula Taylor, who will be coming in. We have some pamphlets that you'll see either on our tables or in the Zoom space. So check those out. But yeah, let's dive right in. I should share that we will have a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, you can write them in or raise your hand or whatever you feel. But yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
I know this from running until 7:30. I have to leave at 7. So when you see me get up and leave, it's not because I'm being offended by anything you're saying, or, it just, when I normally leave early, I like to let the group know so they won't think that I'm just cutting out just because all right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so what is a doula? Should we start there?
You want to start with us, or you want to start with online?
Yeah, let's maybe give our online friends the mic to share and start, and we can filter in. But yeah, it's essentially what is a doula and what's called us to becoming a doula.
She's on mute.
There she is. Go, Britt, go. It's okay.
Joe, now she's on mute. Oh, I think she
Oh,
wants you to
okay.
start.
Okay, no, I couldn't tell. I wanted
let's
to
do the
pose the
break.
question first.
What
I don't know if
is
it's
a doula?
yeah, okay, all right. I can't tell she. So so y'all want me to take the question first. All right. So
Yes.
a doula is in real terms, it's a non-medical support person or individual for a family through any life transition, many life transitions, specifically, personally, I am a full spectrum doula. So that means I can support families throughout their, from prenatal, birth, postpartum, bereavement, kind of going through the entire lifespan. So that's kind of like one aspect of what a doula is. And I'm going to popcorn it to one of my doula sisters.
Yes.
You want me to take the next part?
Yeah.
You got it.
Everybody, I'm Britta Shaw. Brittany went into grave detail about full spectrum doula work, and I'll just add a tidbit into it about how we support with like emotional, spiritual, physical aspects of all of the things that she mentioned from preconception all the way through bereavement. Popcorn.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they answered the question really. It's everything they said. For me, yeah, I find that, yeah.
A loaded question.
Huh?
It's a loaded question.
It is, but like, I mean, it is non-clinical support, and we're there to help you with your emotions, what you're feeling, spiritually, right? We're gonna help you ground and to take deep breaths when you need them, and just all the little things that like maybe your doctors or other support folks aren't able to do, or even maybe even family members or other kinds of folks in your lives that like may not have the like necessary info that you need to like calm down if you need to, or just be informed about a thing if you need to. The part that I love most about being a doula, or like at least showing up as a doula, is like the spiritual for me. That's like I live in the spiritual realm. But that, yeah, that's what it is to be a doula. What about you, Lamika?
So I kind of tailored off of what they said. I'll finish. But what we also do is advocacy work. So basically, we are the ones who are providing you information due to your circumstances. They can vary, because everyone has a different situation going on. Some have, preeclampsia or whatsoever, so maybe when we create their birth plan, we have to tailor the information we provide to that specific need and how to help them do that. Maybe it's a lot of swelling in their ankles or their hands or whatsoever. One birth plan isn't one that fits all. There is a template, there's various templates that have similar questions, but again, it can be at a different point, different stages, or whatsoever, need different things. You can need, also your postpartum support. So postpartum is, of course, the aftercare. And in the aftercare, you even have a postpartum plan for yourself of how you would like to take care of it. So that can, you can have the VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean. You may need something tailored to that, or you can have a C-section that's specifically tailored to that, or so it can range, but with the information we provide, we come in and support you, with information and advocate on your behalf, or teach you how to advocate for yourself, especially when you're going into appointments by yourself, like when you are there. So when you're there with the doctor and they're like, oh, do you have any questions? That would be a perfect time to ask those questions. No question is a dumb question. If you have a concern, no concern is a dumb concern. Like, it can be, oh, all of a sudden I'm feeling tingliness in my hands and I don't know what that is. Ask it. Some people get shy and they don't want to ask those questions. Some people refuse because they're not really comfortable with it, or they feel like their particular doctor hasn't heard them. And if you feel like your doctor hasn't heard you or don't listen to the things that you say or kind of include you in, then maybe you should get a new doctor. Like, you can always ask for a different person. You can actually even go above their head if you want to. But this is where we come in and providing that information and kind of giving you that to support where you are in your stance, and not just for you, if you have a partner or family members or whoever else is supportive to you during your journey.
That's good, yeah. Yeah, that's great. We covered a number of things or the spaces that doulas occupy, right? Prenatal care, birth care, postpartum care, bereavement care, not alluded to, yes, right? But I'm curious from each of us here, what are our favorite parts of being a doula? Yeah. Yeah, doula Shah, what's your favorite part or aspect of being a doula?
Well, there's so many, and each bit of the care itself, I just enjoy supporting those who need it and providing any kind of tools and resources, and just like those, seeing the specks of joy in the midst of some of the hard moments. That's like my favorite part of it. Oh,
Wow. Wow, yeah.
Doula Britt, what's your thoughts?
Yes, I definitely agree, Sha. I feel like us, having those joys that really resonate with me. As well, I think one of my biggest fulfillments that I get from being a doula is, one, the connections, being able to connect with families and really get to know them. I enjoy getting to know people and kind of like seeing, okay, like where can we grow? Always having that growth mindset. So I love seeing people through their journeys and kind of seeing them, us going from one place and then working to get to the next. And also education. That's also like my really biggest thing. I love educating. I love being able to take information and break it down where it makes more sense and it's more relatable and it's more understandable, because there's a lot of things that when it comes to specifically like in birth and pregnancy and maternal health, there's so many different terms and terminologies. And, you know, when you sometimes may go into like hospital spaces or when you're with your providers, they're using a lot of terms that we don't really understand, or they're just not, you know, resonating. So being able to be that, you know, middle person, or be that, just that foundation for someone to either, you know, have that connection where we can like have a conversation and we can say, all right, I'm not sure what this is. I got you. Let me educate you. Let me put you on. Let me, you know, break it down. Let's put this in a way where it does make sense and it does fit to you and it is tailored to your situation, so that we can, you know, get to the outcome that you want. We can have a better birth experience, or, you know, we can help you kind of heal through, you know, what you're, you know, experiencing, and just being able to identify. So I think education, that piece is something that I really do enjoy a lot with doula work. Yeah. How about you, Serenity?
I got the mic. My happy place. Yeah, B squared is what I often say to myself and to others. Yeah, birth and bereavement. I love the thrill of like, oh, you have your due date, but the baby chooses when the baby's ready, right? And so just like being a part of that, it reminds me, my truest calling is, I'm a recording artist, and so I have to show up a lot of times for stage, and like things are like last minute. Sometimes you gotta like change it real quick. Anyway, it's likened, my career is likened unto birth, like the birth of the portion, and so I love that, being able to just be on call and like have the bags ready, and like you're like, oh no, it's so much excitement. Yeah, I can't explain it. I love it so much. And just being in the room and being a part, like we're chosen to be a part of that experience. It's so sacred, you know, between a mommy and a daddy, and like a baby's coming and you get to be a part of that. That's so huge to me. I don't take that lightly. So the birth is so beautiful, and bereavement for me. There's so much grief that comes with life, and that comes with like having a baby. Like our bodies are changing, our breasts are changing, our hips are changing, our lives are changing, and that's a lot. And so that's like on the journey, but then even postpartum, like, wait, what happened to my life? Like, what is life? Oh my gosh, I have a whole baby to care for. Like, what do I do? Like, who am I? Like, all those things. I love just holding space.
You call that bereavement?
It's not completely, but I mean, a good chunk of it is grief there. Not so much, even if there's times when you lose your children and you have to grieve that, but there's the grief of there's a joy, but also the other side of that, the shadow side of, yeah, there's postpartum depression and different things that we experience that aren't always talked about, but just holding a mama's hand and a family's hand and journeying in that way is really beautiful to me.
So
What about?
So you're saying that that grief is a part of giving birth? That's what I'm hearing?
It is.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Flushy said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to make sure she understood too.
Sure. Yeah. The joys outshadow the grief, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I'm like, I don't remember the pain of my birth, but
Yeah.
I do remember it was really tough.
Where people go into postpartum depression.
Which is a real thing.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. I don't know if you folks on Zoom land can hear, but she was just referring to postpartum depression and that being a real thing.
That's serious.
And that being a part of what we hold space and caring for mamas, and doula Mika, I'd love for you to share as well.
One of my favorite parts is just the confidence, being able to give them that boost that they didn't have. Some have it and they're just like, well, I know I'm going in there and they're not gonna tell me nothing to do it. And I'm just like, all right, cool, you got this, all right. Like, and being able to help them just organize their thoughts, because even though you may be like, I'm ready to pull the trigger, it's still like you still have to kind of organize yourself to be realistic, because there can be different kind of things, like I said previously, going on with you, and you have to consider some of that medical side. You can be natural out, but you still have to consider your health too in the end, because we want everybody to be healthy in the outcome. So being able to help them organize that, and then also help encourage that confidence. There are some moms that I have dealt with that was just like, I don't know, you took them over, they gotta come up this way, I'm not doing that. And I'm just like, well, you take a deep breath and we're gonna get through this. And they surprise themselves about what they can do and what their bodies can do, and being able to relax in that moment. I love when I'm able to quiet down. But I love when I'm able to quiet down the room and be able to allow the mom or the virgin person to be able to center themselves and be able to hone into their own body. It's nice when you can have that segment of time when maybe it's not a nurse or a doctor or a medical professional not in the room or something, and they can be able to really tap into themselves for a second and actually start learning how to ride their contractions. So I like when I'm able to support them during those stages and remind them of who they already are and kind of bring that person forward. Sweet.
Well, let's pivot into our next segment. What called us to becoming a doula? This is sort of a little bit of storytelling. And yeah, I'd love to hear from us. What called us to becoming a doula, and why did doula work, this work, call us? And I also see some more doulas in the space. Could we introduce ourselves, please?
Absolutely. Hi guys, my name is Sarah Smith. I am a doula and an international board certified lactation consultant. I am the owner of Nourish Our Seeds, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. Nice to see everyone.
Peace, everybody. I'm Sarah Revolution. I'm the founder of Earth Natural Church Alone. We are the largest Black-owned doula training organization and collective in Connecticut. And I'm also a midwife student.
Amen. Yes.
Congratulations.
Wonderful. Oh.
We train some of these students.
Yes. It's an honor to have you here. Yes. So yes, what called us? And please, anyone chime in. I'm happy to start if that's okay. I was reflecting on this question, and it just dawned on me. I was like, wait, what called me? Like, when did I ever know about being a doula and why? And it hit me like, wait, like you were a doula when you were 10 years old, Serenity. My mom had my little sister when I was 10. And I was the little girl, like massaging my mom's feet and going into the kitchen and preparing meals and putting things in the microwave and washing dishes and doing the things. And when my mom went back to work, I was on postpartum care, changing diapers and the things. And it hit me like, wait, that's a part of it, right? I was also listening to her emotional ups and downs through the process. And, you know, she was a single mom with, at that point now, 3 kids, you know? And so I was like, wait, that was my entry into becoming a doula. I just didn't, it was just unbeknownst to me. But officially, I knew about what a doula was when I had my first pregnancy in 2014. That ended in a miscarriage. And that's where I became aware of not only the fact that like, oh, there are people here to care for you through your process, but also to help you breathe. So I had a horrible miscarriage and I was so devastated. Yeah, I said, wow, this was such good care. I want to be able to do that for others. And then it hit me again, like, wait, I've been doing that for friends who've had miscarriages or folks who, you know, were on their journeys as pregnant mamas and just needed help. You know, if you sign up for a meal train, you're doing the thing. You know, if you're showing up for a family, like you're serving. And so I decided to then in 2019, I got wind of Latham Thomas, who was my mentor, and she is the founder of Mama Glow Doulas in New York, and so I became a doula through Mama Glow, and that's how it sort of officially began. But you know, the journey happens way before the certification, right? The work is taking place just by you breathing and showing up and being there for your sister, brother, mom, cousin, neighbor, you know, so that's my story. Yeah, and I just love being a doula, so.
I'm sorry, just to let you, so Dale is here on behalf of the Connecticut Health Foundation, who is helping us do these programs, so I hope that you will be okay with that.
Just ignore me, that's possible,
Okay.
I just kind of try to get.
I should share this PS before I pass it along to our doula sisters online. I ended up I'm having a little girl years later, well, during the pandemic, my daughter's and I have 4 doulas. Thanks to my doula certification, I met a lot of doula friends and all my friends wanted to be my doula, so I was like, yes, come be my doula. But I would say like, doula Asha Evans is here. She was my doula. Oh my gosh, I love you so much, Asha. Feel free to chime in if you want to. Okay, that's fine. Let's pass it on to doula Shah.
Hey, everybody. So yeah, originally I had no intentions of being a doula. I'm not gonna lie. I had a good friend, her name was Tiffany, and she was close with a midwife, Yamara, and this is in South Florida. She kept saying, "You'll be so good at it. You're always taking care of people. You're good at advocating." I'm like, "Girl, I don't want to see no babies coming out. I'm passed out. I don't do blood." And so I thought. Then there was a mother, she was imprisoned. Her name is Tammy Jackson, and she was pregnant. She gave birth to her baby in prison. The guards did not listen to her when she said that her baby was coming.
Wow.
Had her baby dropped like on the prison floor. She ended up dying. Yeah, the baby lived, but Tammy ended up dying. And we rallied around that. And it was like from that moment, I didn't even have a choice to reject the idea of becoming a doula because I couldn't, you know, you just can't stand for things like that. So that's what started. I saw a few births, I adjusted to it. And then I shifted to abortion work, a lot of abortion work for mamas who like experienced sexual assault and domestic violence. I enjoyed supporting people in that aspect. Yeah, that's what got me into the work. And I give thanks to Southern Birth Justice Network for the training. And it was amazing training. They still do train folks. And yeah, it's a full spectrum birth justice doula. So yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
Want me to popcorn online or in person?
Sure.
Online? Brittany?
Okay, yes. Hey everyone. So what called me to doula work? I would say I've always been called to birth work. Ever since I was 9 years old, I've always known I wanted to deliver babies. But I didn't necessarily know like what that meant and what that even was. And I kind of just you know, I've always had that calling like in my spirit. And I do, you know, my end goal is I do aspire to be a midwife. You know, I will be a midwife, speak it more into existence. I need to get more comfortable saying that because for so long it felt so unobtainable. But before I even got to, you know, catching the babies and, you know, catching life and doing that, I realized that I needed to kind of learn what it meant to listen to moms and learn what it meant to support moms and see what they need and see what was going on, because I was seeing some of my peers, they were having kids and they were just kind of, there was just, I didn't know what to do. I just felt like there had to be something else out there. And yeah, I trained to become a doula in, I believe it was 2019 or 2019, 2020. And with that, the pandemic happened. So a lot of shifts as far as how support people, how doulas can come into the hospital space, or how they can support people or support families. It changed completely because there wasn't that human connection that we couldn't. Everyone, it was, you all know what that time was like 4 years ago, and just having that separation and learning how to still create community and create relationships and support our moms during their depression, during their 60 days of just having a baby when you can't actually be there. And Sha, actually, I supported Sha. She was one of my doula families, my radiant babies in 2020, and really connecting with her is where I saw, like, we just came hit, just saw the just how moms are just kind of the struggles, the postpartum, how we're kind of just left to kind of just figure it out, and just seeing Sha just be a doula, knowing her background, and then also experience pregnancy and experience some of those things that we work so hard to make sure our moms don't experience, like seeing that happen to her, and supporting her in that. That's kind of like, how postpartum work became such like more of a passion. And we created, and we'll get more into this later, but just our Go to Radiance Village, and keeping that village and keeping us just, yes, I supported you in your birth, or I support your family, but we're still apart. We're still connected. We're still a village. There's still people that we can call on to, like, do this, or do you know somebody that loves to chat? Shannon always says, who you know that likes to do all the talking? I'm not trying to sit on the phone. I was like, I might know somebody. Have them sit on the phone, and they do that for you. And just, having roles, and just really learning like how to split up the roles so we don't so we can really support each other. We can support our moms so they're not heavy and healing and trying to figure it out. And we can just get the hands in different people to really just really put the hands in, and support the family and healing, support the mom in healing and raising their baby. So that's what called me to doula work. And and just the education, like I was saying, kind of just more, how can we let people know more about what's out there, what their resources are, what their brother can do, what their grandmother can do. Everyone has a role, and it's instilling a confidence or awareness in people that you do have a role, and you do have a role in this. No, we're gonna work, we'll work out a few things and boundaries and all that good stuff. We'll learn how to communicate and support each other fully. But yeah, that's really where the calling came from. And just as it goes, is there's so much more to this work. And and being in the spectrum, there's so much more to learn. And yeah, that's one thing that I love about birth work is you're always learning. When any woman, every birth that I supported, every woman that I've come across, even my doula sisters, always learning. And I always take that, and I appreciate all of you. So yes, thank you. And I will popcorn it. Oh, go ahead. What you about
Can
to-
I give a big shout out to Doula Britt, because I would not have made it through my labor without her, coming through with the birth ball. And my postpartum was it was beating me down, but she came through and really helped me in every aspect of it. So I just want to give a big shout out to Doula Britt.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yes. I guess I'll popcorn it in person. Taylor?
Thanks, Britt. Okay, so I think there's a common thread kind of amongst everybody who is a doula and really is called to the work. It's something that is ingrained in us naturally, something that we kind of always have gravitated to, I guess. I know for me, my mom had triplets after she had me. I was 7 years old, I begged for a sister and I got one of those plus 2 brothers to go alongside them. And my mom was in nursing school, so there was a lot going on. I ended up having to do a lot of raising of my brothers and sisters. Those are my babies, if you ask me. Easily said and done. And I learned very young that I love nurturing. It was something that was natural to me and easy for me. So fast forward, I've raised triplets. And I always knew I wanted to be a mom. You know, when you ask a little girl what she wants to be when she grows up, I would say, I want to be a mom. And I was really looking forward to having my first child or children or whatever it ended up being. And around 21, I had my first son. And I was still very young, like extremely young. Obviously, I'm 21 years old. And we don't really talk about like what to expect, you know, when you're going into being pregnant, having a baby with our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunties and whoever else at this point. Really, it's kind of less expected, unfortunately. So I went in very unprepared, not knowing half and nothing about anything about birth and babies, as we would say. And my pregnancy, wonderful. I love being pregnant so much, I would be a surrogate. It's the after part that I'm like,
Yeah, no, my cousin too.
let's go ahead and raise the kids. But I love being pregnant. So I didn't have a traumatic pregnancy or even a traumatic labor, to be honest. I had my first son completely unmedicated. My first time around, it was crazy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like, it's hard, but I got it done. It was kind of the after of what officially drew me into becoming a doula. I remember my son was getting his bilirubin tested, and I'm saying this from a very educated perspective at this point. I had no idea what they were talking about when they said it, and they did not properly explain it, but I'm gonna continue on. My son was getting his bilirubin tested, and I remember the nurse had taken him from me and went towards like the sink area off to the side away from my bed. And I always was very inquisitive, so I was like, what you doing over there? And she was like, oh, no, nothing, we're just using whatever the device was called at the time to scan and see, check his bilirubin levels. Again, not knowing what anything, I did not know what she said. It could have been Chinese for all I knew. But nonetheless, she said what she was doing. And I remember her saying, oh my goodness. And I was like, immediately my ears perked. I'm like, what's going on over there? And she was like, oh no, this machine must be broken. Those levels are way too high. Like, there's no way. I'm gonna go get a machine, don't worry.
Was it yellow?
I mean, my son is milky. He's always been very, very fair. So, you know, I could.
My son was yellow.
Mhm.
Mine was yellow.
So I couldn't really tell too much. And again, I didn't even know what to look for at that point. I was 21-year-old having a baby. So, she comes back with a new machine and she was like, oh no, we gotta get him to the NICU. And I'm like, NICU, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
she was like, no, his bilirubin is really high. I'm thinking bilirubin is a sandwich. I'm like, what are we talking about? So I immediately pulled out my phone. As everything's coming in, the pediatrician comes in eventually, and they start speaking all types of medical jargon, things that I can't really digest or understand without having to look it up. After they left, after they barely explained, I looked everything up and I was like, okay, so I immediately started studying what the liver process looks like, and, you know, having to have that mature to be able to process the bilirubin out and so forth and so on. But they were telling me also during this time, like, oh, he is so jaundiced that he has to have phototherapy. You cannot take him out of his incubator. If you do, he will literally die. They were threatening that he could basically lose brain function, all types of things. And they were like, if you take him out, hold him, you know, basically do what you're supposed to do with your newborn, he's gonna die. And I'm like, oh, you're saying he's gonna die? Don't worry, you got it. I'm not gonna risk. I want my baby alive and happy and healthy. I'm doing whatever y'all tell me to do. But it was starting to feel very counterintuitive. My mom was a teen mom when she had me, but she breastfed me until I was 3 years old. So there were things that I had basic knowledge of, like the importance of breastfeeding. Not so much skin to skin, but you know, I was starting to get baby blues a little bit because I wasn't able to connect with my newborn the way that we're designed to. And it's a little bit of a long story, also. Hang in there, I'm almost there. But long story short, we have been in the NICU for over a week and a half, and his bilirubin levels were staying pretty much where they were. They weren't going up or down for that matter. I was starting to feel crazy in my body because I wanted to hold my son. You know, when they're under the phototherapy, they also have to wear the goggles most times. So he was wearing goggles from the time he was born. I wasn't able to connect him. I wasn't able to breastfeed him, which was what, if I didn't know nothing else, again, I knew I really wanted to breastfeed my child, but they were saying he would die if I did those things. My mom is an RN, and she came in and she just was like, she caught me actually crying. This is before Yale redid their NICU suites, but it was when all the babies were on the perimeter of the room, very traditional style, and you know, everybody's probably had their own little section. Me and my husband, we didn't have a car at the time, so we were basically living in the NICU, you know, showering when we could, you know, but we didn't want to leave because we saw how they were handling those babies, and I was like, I'll be, excuse my language, y'all, but I'll be damned if somebody handle my child like that. I'll stay here. I don't care if I'm stanking a little bit, my breath might be a little harsh, I'll find the bathroom and brush a little later, but I'm gonna be with my baby. So we got 2 room sectioners, like little foldable collapsible ones, and we sectioned off our baby side, and they allowed us to have 2 rocking chairs. And we literally, like I said, for a week and some change, stayed in that position. And I remember my mom, again, my husband had went somewhere, he went downstairs, and my mom came up, and I didn't know she was coming. So I gave myself a moment to really cry and breathe, like, I wanna hold my son, but I don't wanna put him in harm's way. And she caught me in that moment, and she was like, why are you crying? And I was like, I just wanna hold him. And she was like, what you mean you ain't been holding my grandbaby? If you don't pick him up. And I was like, girl, you crazy, what? Pick him up. They're saying if I do that, he's gonna die. You've lost your mind, not doing it. But again, we were there for so long. After a little, after a day, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to hold him. I know that breastfeeding is going to help heal his gut and get his kind of body activated. I'm gonna try to see if I can breastfeed him. And I took my mom's advice. She did kind of walk me through the process of how do you advocate for yourself? Go in those huddles. I was going to every huddle that they had early in the morning, late at night, all of the stuff, but I didn't know how to actually involve myself in that process. I was just listening. She told me how to speak during those. Stop asking them for things. You demand, this is your baby, you're gonna do it. So again, I wrote her off very early on, but after that day, I was like, you know what, this sounds like it might work. Let me do it. So I told him, I was like, I really want to, I still was scared, don't get me wrong. I wasn't big bad and tough with my Afro puffs or none of that. But I was like, I want to try breastfeeding him. And they were like, well, all the wells and all these except but I was like, no, I really want to try. Kind of double down a little bit. They're like, okay, you can do it, but then he has to go right back in the incubator. I'm gonna tell y'all this, after a single day of me holding my baby and breastfeeding my baby, his bilirubin levels dropped dramatically, and we were able to be discharged within 3 days after that. So it taught me really that there is a human side of this work. Of course, there's science that we have to pay attention to that is invaluable in a lot of different ways, but there's also a other side to this. And that's the human side. We need connection, we need support, we need love, we need everything that goes into her. It's a very spiritual process, and it can't just be medical. And that's what they're given. So I was like, I don't want another woman to ever go into a situation where she don't know. And it's not her fault that she don't know, she just don't know. I wanna be support to any and everybody who I can teach how, empower to, whatever the adjective is. I wanna be that person for someone so they don't end up like me. And no, I didn't have the worst birth. I don't have the worst birth story at all. But I didn't have the knowledge, and that's something that we don't need to have because we have us. So that's the quality.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Yeah. That was a lot, so I mean.
I know
That was a lot. But for me, what kind of drew me to it is because I do actually have kids. I was a teen mother. I have a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. They both 65, 92. They walking stories. But I was a teen mom with my first. I call him the liar of the group because he gave me a great birth experience. He's the quiet kid, never gets into trouble, no nothing. So I was like, oh, I can have more kids because they're awesome. Lies. My second one was my no limit soldier. He came out when he was born. I actually had to do a C-section with him. It was a late call for an emergency C-section. He actually was almost 43 weeks. And I have my kids are late and lazy, so they don't like to come. They like to stay warm in the belly. But he hit a day shy of his 43rd week. And I was in labor, to speed up my story. I was a little exhausted and I was just like, you know what, go ahead, let's do the C-section. In the midst of that, my water broke. When my water broke, it showed basically a whole lot of meconium. There was no clearness to it at all. It was pure meconium. It basically plopped clean out on the floor. And I was like, no, that's wrong, something's wrong. When I had the nurse look at it, she was basically like, oh no, everything's fine, yada, yada, yada. At this point in time, I didn't know how long it was gonna take them to go actually from, you know, me being prepared for a vaginal delivery to change that into a cesarean. I'm sitting here long enough to be able to shower, redress myself, lotion my skin while my baby is sitting in a sack full of little pieces. So what happened is my baby ended up being told VIC section with meconium aspiration. He spent his very first seconds and days in NICU. At that time, Connecticut was one of the states, there were 6, I believe, in the country, that they're called ECMO. It's a machine that it is basically half dialysis and half oxygen. So it cleans the blood and put oxygen back in the baby's body. Soon as he was born, he had to go through this process. If you actually see the size of that machine, nobody wants to see that. The size of the tubes, nobody wants to deal with that. What happened was when they pulled him out C-section, I didn't hear a cry, so I tried not to freak out. I was like, my baby's not crying. My first one cried. My baby's not crying. What's going on? Doctor was like, oh, you're fine, trying to keep you calm, because obviously I'm cut open on the table. The nurse walks out immediately. I didn't know, I go to sleep, I wake up later on that morning, and I'm like, so y'all was gonna park my baby in my room? Like, what's going on? Where's my baby? So what ends up happening is I actually had to get wheeled down to NICU when I started to request my baby. Which I guess the information didn't come upstairs yet, and so at that point, is when I went to go see, I was like, you know, hey, I want to see my baby. She was like, the nurse was like, sure, put me in the wheelchair, we were getting ready to go, she got a pull on her phone, she was like, oh, I think you get NICU. And I was like, oh, what's going on? Why I gotta NICU? I said, well, how much did my baby weigh? She was like 8 pounds, 6 ounces. Sound like a healthy baby to me. Where we going? Why we going? I'm for the little babies. Why we going down here? So she was just like, no, one of the doctors need to speak to you. Why they want to talk to me? What's going on? So they put me down. I go down the stairs, and the first thing I see is someone handing me a bunch of papers like, this is that I need you to sign. This is like the next situation, regardless if you sign or not. We're gonna go ahead with the procedure. I was like, what procedure? What are you talking about? What do you mean? He was like, come with me in this private room. What is going on? So I'm trying to be as calm as I can, and not flip out, because in my mind, I'm like, what? Private room? My baby sound healthy enough, like what's going on? Come to find out, he was out breathing all the oxygen tanks to the point that he was breaking them, because it was trying to pump so much air into his body that he wasn't taking none of it in. So there was nurses that actually had to come in and pull lots of overtime, hand pumping and expressing the air into his body. Come to find out, he needed to be placed on that ECMO machine. He was on the ECMO machine for 2 weeks. He was in NICU for 2 whole months. So I breastfed my first kid when I was a teenage girl. I felt like a fountain. I could not stop providing. So coming to my second, I'm just like, I couldn't feed him. because we didn't have that close contact. We didn't have that. He was in the incubator and he was hooked up to machines. I couldn't touch him or nothing. So because we didn't get to have that, it broke that golden segment of time to be able to bond with your baby to actually get that milk to kind of produce. So I was giving him basically like crumbs, and the nurse there was just like, listen, anything you give is helpful. So I gave as much as I could. When he finally came out, I stayed with him, was excited. That was his story, and when that all occurred, I was just like, I wish I could fight back some kind of way, because I felt like the fact that you left me in a room that long where a baby was sitting in a sack full of his own feces for so long, whatsoever, makes absolutely no sense. And once that water broke, you should have rushed me off into some type of OR as fast as you can, because that means he's going through some stuff that you cannot see by just looking at me. The fact I was able to take a full nap and a shower and lotion my body like nothing's going on or whatsoever is ridiculous. So I was told by a medical malpractice lawyer, the only way I could fight is one, if he has some type of earworm in his brain, and it was that by however he turned out later. And then on top of that, the only other way is to actually try to get a time stamp of when they called for the emergency C-section versus when they actually did it. To try to get an idea from when they actually saw the meconium on the floor versus when they actually was able to pull him out. So that lit me up, because I was just like, now you know, weeks is gonna cover that. I can't do anything. So I was just like, I don't want nobody to go through that. With my first kid, I wasn't interested in one of the midwives. I had a favorite one, but she helped me with my birth and all of that. There was another midwife that came in, and she was just like, oh, you can't leave until you take these lactation classes. I was like, you can't hold me hostage if I don't want to take breastfeeding classes, because actually, my kid's father, his whole family, all the women there breastfed. So when I was telling them I wanted to breastfeed, they already was giving me information. This particular midwife was just like, you're not leaving this hospital until I will not discharge you until you actually know you're a teenager, you're having a child, so until you know. I was like, oh, it's okay to force people to do stuff. So that was my first word, so I left with that thought on my mind. Then with my second, I was like, oh, it's okay to neglect people. Got it. By the time I got to my third child, which was my daughter, when I got to her, I basically, hers ended up okay. So her contractions, but I was actually gonna do a vaginal delivery with her. And I decided at the very last minute to go C-section. I was 9 centimeters. The doctor he was like, what did you just say to me? You are 9 centimeters. You took all night. Why are you changing it? Here's why. When her water broke, there was a spot of meconium. So it made me think of my second. So I said to him, and this is where I learned how important advocacy is, and that some doctors will actually listen to you, hear you. So when I seen that, I was like, you know what? I cannot do this to myself. He was like, what's wrong? I said, I pulled the sheets back. Look at my sheets. Yes. I know what that is. I cannot do that to myself. He was like, okay. So he must have went back and looked at my charts and read what happened. He came, because he was just like, I'm gonna give you 15 minutes, and if it's not a head coming through or something, then we'll go ahead with the C-section. But let me, so my contractions was going on. He's just like, we having this vaginal, and I'm like, no, we not. So he goes and basically looks at my chart and sees what happened with my second. Came back in the room less than 15 minutes and was just like, I'm not gonna be able to put you through that. Get her on the table. It took them like 4 minutes to go from a vaginal birth setup to an actual C-section, and he wasted no time. And all I could do is say thank you over and over, because I actually was hurt. He didn't ask too many questions, nothing. He went back, looked at my history, and was just like, oh yeah, no, that's a no. I'm not, if that's what's triggering you and your lid's closed and you really want to change, I was like in perfect timing where if I breathed wrong, her head could have came up. Like, he was just like, if you want to change at the nick of a dime like that, then I'd rather you leave happy versus sitting here feeling like you was not heard. So because of that, I was just like, okay, so they can hear you. It's kind of like he undid everything I kind of went through.
Yeah.
By that time, I was just like, yeah, I gotta figure out how to get in this medical field and understand. Then I looked at everything as far as OBGYN, midwife, and I was like, I don't wanna do cervical checks, so that's out. I do not wanna do that, because if I'm not having a baby, I'm up to somebody's snot, I'm good. No here, no sir, no thank you. But then it was just like, but the student loans though, no, I'll pass on that. Is there anything else I could do? And then I learned about what a doula was, and then I dove deeper because it was a new thing to me. So I started going, ooh, what's this? And then found out about breeding midwives and how it's a part of Black DNA, just period. And this is what we did, and this is what we do. And so I was just like, oh yeah, well, I'm outside with it. Let me get my stuff together. How do I start this? So that was the beginning of me going into it.
Great.
Great.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Yeah. Sayana, would you like to share?
My stories are not that interesting. I got pregnant in 1999 and realized that I didn't know anything about pregnancy and birth. And so I started talking to like some of my friends who had midwives, and I decided to have midwives in a hospital setting. I don't like hospitals, not my thing, not interested. And so I had beautiful birth experiences. But after my first baby, I realized that people needed to know that birth doesn't have to be what we think it is, right? So we always think it's scary and it's yelling and screaming and crying and my water broke and and it really doesn't have to be like that. So I decided to become a doula, but then I got pregnant. So I had to take a little break. I trained in 2001, my first doula training. And by the time I got to Connecticut, I started looking for Black and brown women. Couldn't find them. Even before I got here, I'm like, what's going on in Connecticut? Like, I'm from New York, so I don't know if it's racist, if like what's happening up here in Connecticut. I don't know what I'm walking into. And so when I got here, I was only able to find 3 doulas. One was a young woman who was like building her family, pregnant, breastfeeding. One was an older woman who was taking care of her elderly mother. And one was a transplant. She was just here temporarily. She was planning on going back to wherever she came from. I don't know what their training or experience was, but this was something that they knew they wanted to do. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, I have to build a village. I have to have doulas who can care about my clients in the way that I would care for them if I wasn't available. And so at this point, I'm a doula for 15 years, and I've taken midwifery classes and lactation classes and all of these things. And so I developed my doula training. And in 2016, we start training doulas here in Connecticut. And then, of course, you start hearing about, the bills that it introduced, and we're working with the state to try to figure out like where we can go with this doula thing to make sure that it's accessible to everybody in the state. And to make sure that we're not excluding people who might be coming from other states that want to be a doula here. Because a lot of states do that. They'll exclude certain people. And so here in Connecticut, we work really hard to make sure that core competencies is the goal as opposed to certain restrictions. And so I'm on a few different advisory boards to make sure that we're going in the right direction. And if you want to be a doula, you can be a doula. If you want to reimburse from Medicaid, you can do that too, but you don't have to, right? There are different routes. But yeah, that's pretty much how it went. And I started midwifery school a few times, and here I am. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Yes.
Really,
Thank you all.
really powerful. Wow. Wow. I would love to open us up into Q&A. If any of us have questions, wonders, whether here in the room or in Zoom land, Please feel free to unmute yourselves, drop a in the chat or here.
I just
Yeah.
wanna know, before you came here, like, how do you get in touch with you? Like, how do you advocate, or how do you put your information out for the community to know about this? This is my first time. Oh, okay.
For myself, a lot of my business comes from either word of mouth from my previous clients or being in the community. Like, we really are out here for real. Shamika has put together a lot of different community baby showers alongside some of our birth gang. And it really is about just making your presence known, showing up for your community and letting everybody know that you're here. So a lot of times we're networking and meeting moms where they are, wherever they are, or, you know,
Are you,
creating spaces for them to come.
are you connected with, New Haven Healthy Star? Because me and Brenda, we work with them and they do the birth.
We had to do the program, you know.
Oh, okay, is that something new? Because
No.
my daughter was involved with the
No,
teen baby buddy.
We've actually
Like
had it
years
here
ago.
for, since 2018, you know, when we started.
Oh, okay, so that's a little new.
Yeah.
Cause we started when it was like way back. Like at least over 2 years ago.
Anybody who is considered high risk and help to start can get, a doula. Yeah, program.
Oh, okay, so you
And
know
then-
Natasha Ray
Very
and
well.
Cynthia,
Absolutely.
okay. That's good, they need to talk about that, and bring it out a little more.
And they also, they help to, allow us an opportunity to continue our lactation support group, the Milkshake Cafe. We've had that for about 3.5 years now, where people can log on virtually every Saturday morning and just get lactation support.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and also they've helped us to provide scholarships to people to become lactation counselors and also doers as well.
Yes,
What about the moms, project, are you connected with them too?
No. Mm-mm. No. Yeah, I'm not even sure. If
I think they have it.
I remember that.
You'll find that there are a lot of silos, and that's something that we
Right.
actively work against. You know, we wanna make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, we wanna make sure that at the end of the day, our common goal is to serve the community. Like, there's no trying to huddle and crowd the resources, we just wanna get out there and we just wanna support women, because Black women are dying, at the end of the day, we not having that.
Yeah, I did a lot of outreach with them,
We can
back in 20-something.
project a little louder so that folks in Zoom can hear.
With New Haven Healthy Start, and I actually started like 350 families. So, and part of the outreach is like word of mouth, putting flyers out. I wanted my daughter and a few of her friends to come, but I have the information, but I'm definitely gonna spread the word.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you heard in Zoom land, but the question was how, if I remember correctly, how do we get in touch, or stay connected with doulas? And we answered it in a few ways. There's also some flyers in the room, and there should be something in the virtual space as well, to share more about different doulas here today, not limited to Earth Natural Touch and
I was
so
just
much
trying to
more.
just come
Yeah,
by.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. So, yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, I do. What's the difference between the new birth journey and the nourish seeds?
Nourish our seeds, right?
Yeah, I'm saying, what does it mean, like, so if they're probably gonna ask me that, what's.
So essentially, it's just the name of our businesses. Mine is Nourish Our Seeds and Shamika's is New Birth Journey. But we
So
are,
it's the same thing, it's just.
yep, so I also offer, lactation services as a lactation consultant. So I kind of, we all have our own niche, I feel like, that's like the thing. One of the things that I specialize in is fatherhood engagement. I am very young, but I've been married almost 9 years, and I went through my journey, with my husband right next to me in bed, just about every day of my doula training. and he learned a lot and was able to help support me, not my first time around, but the second time around, he was a lot more of a support in that way. And I really learned the importance of having your partner or good support in the room with you. Again, something that I really take personally. So I train the fathers. I offer a birth partner support training where I teach them the basics of how to do health, at knowing their rights, making sure that, again, the person in the room with the mom is effective and helpful. So, to fine tune the answer to the question, the difference is just whatever we bring to the table, Shamika has taken out, and I'll let her speak for herself, but, a lot of different trainings, we're all trained in different areas, different passions, like, I'm not so much a postpartum doula. I can do it, it's just not something that I'm extremely passionate about. I love me some labor and delivery.
Yeah.
And I also, I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but I am also a transitional life doula or death doula as well. Before I became, even knew what a doula was, I took care of both my great grandmothers through hospice, and it was something that I really actually enjoy. I'm going to work tonight, hence my garb. But I'll be being a transitional life doula. So again, we all have different things that we offer. That's why making sure you have consultations with your doula is so important. Get to know who you are having serve you, and you'll find out what we do, what we're good at.
Yeah, and to that end, Doula Shah might have mentioned this, but Doula Shah perhaps will agree as well. Just when you're working with one person and their strengths and their gifts, it's not limited to, it's a village. So maybe one person isn't willing to just be on the phone, maybe that's what that mama or father needs, that kind of support, or maybe someone else in the village is. Or perhaps, maybe they're not as well versed in a specific topic or thing, yes, and so maybe, but someone else is. So I like to think of us as referral navigators as well.
Yes.
Like, we're like, hey, here's all these other people and spaces that you can get support, and we want to make sure you get that. It's not, one thing that a doula is not is like one thing, like, we're not your savior, we're not like your doctor, we're not like, we're just not like one thing, we're here to help you to get all the things you need. And so,
And that's even if it don't come from just us.
Yeah.
Like you said, referral. I know Shamika is mom at postpartum. I have a lot of new sisters who are really good at postpartum care. Sis, mom just had a baby. She gets a postpartum care, you available?
yeah.
Pass the buck. Like she said, it's all about making sure that women have everything they need and understand that it's not about us, so we're not gonna but it has to come from me. No, I'm gonna tell my sister, I need your help in this area, or do you know more about that? Cause I wanna make sure this mom has the support that she needs or the knowledge she needs.
Also, friends, if I could chime in, Connecticut has a lot of BIPOC doulas, but then there are BIPOC doulas, and that's all over Connecticut. Fortunately, there are a few trainers there's two I can only think of, which is one who's Ashanti and Woodbury and Bridgewater. But they have range and they train a lot of people, as well as most doulas are their own entity anyway. It's not just like one, it's not like you go to like United Care, you don't necessarily find everybody like that. Most of the time, the information is spread by word of mouth, or an event happens and someone goes, or handing out flyers or something like that, or Google, it's a lot of our interests whatsoever. Sometimes you can just Google and it'll show you who's there and who's available. Sometimes you can just ask whoever is a community advocacy or something like that, if they have any doulas or anybody else they know, or any type of organization that can help get support for them, mom or postpartum or whatsoever, and they'll come up. So they're there, it's just about kind of turning them stones to just find those things or whatsoever. And they're all over the place, too.
Does Doula Shah want to chime in at all, or? continue passing that question.
I actually have a question, and this may seem redundant, but when you guys advocate, do you have to explain a lot of times it's because there's so many biases against Black and brown women that specifically you have to be more,
Show me that you can walk.
Oh, sorry.
that's okay, so you have to be more vocal and you have to be a bigger advocate than if you were white? Because I certainly would say it and name it and tell people, because it's true and it's disgusting. So I'm wondering, do you guys actually do that and address it?
The racial bias. are you
Absolutely, yes.
asking?
Do you address it when you're teaching people how to advocate for themselves?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
I personally, when I get to have any Black or brown a client, I actually, because when they're Googling things and looking at statistics, sometimes they're seeing the overall statistic and not seeing that statistical number starts breaking down by race, by color, by marital status, by age, by this and that, and then it's you. So I tell them you have to take all those things in account. I actually have a story of a client that they told her because she was Black, she had to take Tylenol or Advil, one of those, just simply because she was Black, and they was noticing that Black women have higher risk for high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. And so I told her to ask them to do a detailed test. I said, see if they could do electrical or whatever. That cuff is one thing. Have them look a little further. And she was just like, why do you think something's wrong? I said, no, just have them look a little further. So when they looked a little further, I said, okay, what were your numbers? Did they tell you it looks good? And she was like, yeah, they said it looks good. I said, okay. Now you would have been taking the medicine and you didn't need it. And it was based on the fact that you were Black.
Yeah.
They didn't even do a detailed test. So I was just like, before you do anything, you're gonna have to look at things a little more differently, ask a little bit more questions. I always advise for my clients, bring a notebook with you. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking about, oh, what's this or what's that, or how about this, whatever. No questions are done with questions, no concerns are done concern. Write it down, bring it with you, ask those questions. So when they're at the end of that appointment and they say, do you have any thoughts or any questions or whatever, bring it. If your partners, if he or whoever has any questions, tell them, write it down too. Oh yeah, my partner had a question, this and that and the third, we want to know, yada, yada, yada. Because that's how you will end up more informed. Go ahead and dig a little and say, hey, you know what? I looked at this, but I was wondering that. And how does this pertain to me in specifics? Because if they're doing all the tests and they're doing everything right, the test is tailored to you. And they're comparing it to a scale. So with that, having really addressed those things for you to get more clarity and feel a little bit better and with having more information. So yes, those things do definitely get addressed.
Sorry, I hope my question is not repetitious. I've been out for a while. How deep into the advocacy do us get? If you have a client that just is super timid, very shy, and it's like, I just can't do this. I know something's wrong, but I don't want to say anything. Do you all take over? And do you all go to the doctors, the nurse, or whoever you need to go to advocate or speak on behalf? Or does it have to be something that has to be done through the client because they're the patient?
Yeah, I'd say yes or no or both and. At least for me, my approach, I like to empower the person to advocate for themselves and to speak up. There are moments, especially in a moment like, just for the sake of argument, when they're in labor and it's just, they're just too winded or there's just too much going on and like I don't really either know what to do or say, or you have the conversation well in advance of like, just what you said, hey, like what are your expectations of your team? What do you want either myself as your doula or your partner or anyone else in the room to do for you while you're getting cared for. And especially in those moments when doctors are coming in with like paperwork or medical terms and you need to break those things down, or maybe there's a scenario where someone's being too pushy about a matter and they feel overwhelmed and it's like, okay, excuse me, like, maybe can we just get a couple of minutes to deliberate? And in those moments, maybe that person might say like, can you just speak up for me? Because I just don't have the capacity or feel safe or feel moved to. And so I've definitely shown up as a, like, the voice, and very firm and trying to be kind and graceful, but also very like, hey, this is it. And sometimes you get pushed back. That's not even in the living room, or even at a home birth, sometimes midwives switch up, when it's time to, that certainly happened for me. But yeah, you sometimes need to be that voice of please chime in, ladies. I mean, you sometimes have to be that voice, but I think the work though is to empower and equip the person to say, hey, you can say this. And there's some things you can't do. I mean, we're not signing papers for you or what have you, right? Now, there's some folks who want to give that power over, sure. But, there's just something you cannot do, but you can, speak to things and things, yeah.
Sha, I don't know if you wanted to say something.
So I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it was our turn in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my experience, in hospital birth specifically, if I've known the client like long term before, I'm not just going to say, really? Look at that. And they give consent for me to provide any kind of advocacy for them, I will do so by slowing down the room and really specifying what is happening and what consequences of what is happening, what they could be. I think that's very helpful. But anytime there's any confusion, anything moving too fast, I'm quick to slow the room down, calm the pace, ask curious questions. That's kind of how my way of advocating. I'm not like a rah kind of person. I try to keep it as peaceful as possible as mommy's birthing person. Honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I did just want to touch on, that question that you asked about, one thing that you said that kind of stuck out to me is, if the birthing person or the mom is, I can't remember if you said who, but like they're afraid to say these things. I think getting to the root of that fear, Serenity, Doula Serenity hit it. It's that empowerment. It's, well, what exactly are you afraid? Are you afraid of what you might hear? Are you afraid that they're going to shut you down? Are you afraid of, the answer is kind of getting to that root of that. So then you can kind of open it up and see, all right, maybe we could work through this. Is that fear, is that really rational, or like, is this for real? Or, do you really need to know this information so that you can feel secure in your pregnancy or in your experience, whatever it is. So, asking those questions too, as like one as a doula, but also as a support person that's in contact with whoever this individual is on a daily. It's, having those conversations like, what are you really, breaking those up so that we can like actually start to get to some solutions and, have that empowerment, feel confident in when you get into spaces that you're not comfortable in. Thank you.
Yeah, I think preparation is really key. Like, I can't, now, this life or death, I'm definitely gonna step up to the plate and do what I gotta do. But for the most part, I try my best to prepare my clients, to kind of be hip to what can and cannot happen, as best as I possibly can, based off my experiences, based off my training, so forth and so on. So that way I'm not in a position where I feel like I have to speak for this person. And again, that's another reason why training the support in the room is so important to me too. Because if mom is compromised in any way, shape, or form, and she can't speak for herself, she feels afraid, whatever it is that's preventing her from being able to advocate for herself at that moment, I know I've trained the partner to be like, excuse me, my, whoever this is to me said she doesn't want that, or no, we're not doing that. So it doesn't have to be me in the line of fire, because maybe they can kick me out, and now all the support, you know, is out the window. But if I train that support person, they can go toe to toe with that doctor, because they are a part of that birthing team in that way. Like, it's unfortunate that we're not as respected in the room in that way in a lot of times, but again, that's where that preparation really comes in.
That's
Like, we
really
wanna make
good.
sure that whoever's gonna be there knows their rights, knows the birth plan for the mother, and kind of is not afraid. You gotta give them that power. They might try to say X, Y, and Z. I've seen it happen, but they cannot do that. Once you have that knowledge and information, that preparation before you get in that situation, you're not gonna be as afraid.
Yes.
And not to say that you don't, because again, asking for my own, being able to breastfeed my own child, I wasn't necessarily like, I'm gonna breastfeed my kid, what you talking, like, he doesn't always happen like that, but even my mom put that battery in my back, it made me be able to speak for myself, so you kind of put the battery in. Right, but again, sometimes you just need that battery in your back, and that battery is really that knowledge, knowing what is acceptable, what you want, and knowing that you can have everything you want. These people work for you at the end of the day. When you know that, you go in and you're a little less like,
Yeah.
like, try me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Just to seal this segment, I love that you brought up specific tools, because you have the people's persons to advocate for you, of course, as well as yourself, person giving birth. But you also have these tools like your birth plan, like these things in writing, that you can have to speak for you.
Yes.
Right? So that you don't have to be redundant or say the same things over and over, or they're asking you to do things that you're saying, I do not want unless it's an emergency, right? So the birth plan, which we have a birth plan floating around, some templates that we even have some that we can share in the Zoom land, but birth plan's helpful. Yeah, I love that you share that, and not limited to, but yeah. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Well, actually, I want to continue the conversation, but pivot it a little bit. I have not been surrounded by so many doulas in a very long time. It feels very good to be in this room and have all these fabulous, magical women here. I'm a maternal child health consultant and work on the policy level. And I came to the meeting in September. Noel invited me and we talked about. Bye. We talked about, I presented on Black and brown maternal mortality. And we had a great discussion, and the issue of doulas came up. And I think that's why you're all here this time, because it followed that. And that I see my role as trying to elevate and ensure that there is a place for doulas in addressing Black and brown maternal mortality. And we do have, to address this issue in Connecticut, we have a reproductive justice alliance that's really looking at these issues. And I think that making sure we know what we're doing now is not working. We know that the change has to come from the community, and that we have to find a way to elevate and make sure you all get paid to the degree that you need to get paid, and not necessarily at the expense, you know, the women who can benefit the most are the ones that are not able to take advantage of your services. So we're really trying to address all that in a very comprehensive way. So I just want people to know that doulas are very, particularly Black and brown doulas, are totally recognized by those of us who are trying to affect change. And the work will include finding vehicles to ensure that. And I thought the question of how do we find you? You're not easy to find. You know, those who know you, but those who don't, it's hard. So I just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to share all that, and I appreciate all that you do. And
I'm gonna advocate, I advocate for you, you advocate for the women that you work with, but, there's a whole bunch of us doing this work, and, Mothers and Others for Justice are part of the, Reproductive Justice Alliance, and to me, you are an example of what the community, you are a vehicle to see what can happen in a community to affect change. So I think having all of you here and hearing how powerful this is, and how could anybody not want to do one?
Right.
I mean, you know, it goes from either, I never heard of it and I don't know what you are or what you do to, oh my goodness, yeah, well. And I, particularly because of all the really horrific stories about women dying in childbirth or shortly thereafter, there has to be an advocate within that environment. You have, you know, that's just such an important role that you take on. So I just appreciate and so happy to see all of you that are here, because some of you, now I know who you are. I know how to find you. Thank you. You might be far from me. But I didn't want the meeting to end without a chance to say.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
And I learned so much, Sayana.
We appreciate
Has
you.
taught me so much, so I take my cues from her. She gives a lot of guidance. You all, again, I know all of you there. This is a good thing, so thank you.
Thank you.
I need to say something. And my question is, you ladies on the phone, excuse me, I just, over this weekend, that my daughter experienced devastating, she had a miscarriage at dinner. And I'm a clinical person. And I can tell you everything they did wrong.
Wow.
But I froze out of fear, out of not realizing what was happening that shouldn't have happened. I wish I had already planned coming to this meeting, because I was looking forward to possibly having another great child. So I was gonna be here, you know, regardless, but this past weekend really made me more determined to be here. Because listening to you ladies, had I known more about you, and that's my question to Mary,
Jane, you're Jane.
I was gonna say Mary, but Mary.
I'll take it.
How do we get the word out, because it is needed. It's at the point now, with my daughter's first pregnancy at 35, and she doesn't want to have kids anymore. I didn't know what to do, what to say. All I know is what went wrong and what shouldn't have been done. And things that were said, I finally did speak up to the OB resident who was brown, and I saw how he was not even given help when he should have been given help, but
Not the solution.
it's exactly, and basically, my daughter didn't know what she wasn't supposed to do. So yes, she went to the bathroom, not knowing she should have flushed, and the lady that came in to help her, like, broadcast it throughout the ER, which that was a violation of her HIPAA. I knew that, being in clinical, but I just, outside of texting Myra Smith, who's my go-to advocate person, I couldn't react because I was afraid she wasn't gonna get what she needed. And I felt like I failed her as a mom. I felt that, I mean, I have a nursing background. And I should have spoken up, but I wasn't. But I did get to voice, you know, my opinion. Very nice, and they did everything, but I saw people that you should put on a light. Nobody wanted to answer the light. It was just devastating, and she's non-clinical, I'm clinical, and I'm still torn up. Besides this, I just wish I could have reached out to someone. Still need to reach out to someone else.
Yes, you do.
Help me to the Lord. But, here you ladies are full of compassion and fighting to be recognized, and you have people who are recognized and they have no compassion. So I just had to get that out.
Thank you for sharing that.
I like to say the plus and the takeaway is you actually have options and range, and you have some of our information, if not all, if you can, take the time out to get everybody's direct phone number or an email or something, and keep that with you, you know, because a lot of us in this room have, support groups, I know Golden Radiance has support groups, I have support groups, I don't know who else on the top of my head right now, but they are available for your actual help, and so you don't have to just walk down this journey alone, and neither does your district either. Because that is really unfortunate, but now you know live in the flesh that you have options, even though then, now you know that that door just open a little further and say you have more, so please be encouraged to reach out, take whatever information that you can, and yeah, are you local to them, Raven?
I live in City now.
Okay, well then, definitely, and, I'll say take one of these and we get information, somebody, or
Can,
me. And,
can somebody get
I'll
her
definitely get
information?
in touch with you.
What did you say?
Okay, I don't know if but can somebody get her information so we can get the proper support that she needs?
Yep, we'll definitely do that. This might be a good time to also remember to sign in, so we can send information out. We have handouts and stuff that we can send via email, and yeah, we're hoping. Well, I don't know what the next step is. We have a couple minutes left. I don't know if you want to do
Yeah, I just wanted
that.
to honor the time.
Yeah.
And also we wanted to close our time with some meditation, and I just think do a shot if you do agree, you still feel up to it. We have some of the handouts here. Yes.
We're passing out handouts. Okay, I'll put it up on the screen. Which one?
It's
Do you want the affirmation one?
affirmation, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I need to switch windows around. Don't mind me, I'm not, for some reason I can't get. Oh, I can't get it. Hold on, let me stop sharing for a second. Information.
If you can't play the music, it's okay. I'll just say it.
There it is. Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah, are you able to play the music or?
Oh, yeah, here, let me see if I can do that too.
Okay.
All right, I'll play the music and then go back. Can I do both?
Okay, can you all hear me? Let me know if you can hear me.
Well, I think the internet is pretty terrible
It's
here.
either the music or the speaking of the.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just say it then. I'll just say it.
Oh, that's a fire.
Meditation. Let me know. You can hear me and the music? Okay. Great. Okay. I can't hear y'all, so I'm just gonna flow. And if you can't hear me, just go like that. Okay. This is an affirmation meditation written by myself, Brittany, Doula Brittany, and Doula Serenity. It's an affirmation meditation for melanated mamas who've experienced the shadow side of their womb experience. In the back, we have 417 hertz healing frequency, which is to release negative energy from the womb space. And I'll get started. Too often we experience harm and have to continue on with life as if it's happened. Working, raising kids, paying bills, being safe spaces for others. For this meditation, we choose to name harm and pour power into those who may have experienced it. Hysterectomies and non-consensual conception or rape, child loss, abortion, relational neglect, abuse while pregnant, traumatic births, lack of proper postpartum support, postpartum depletion, postpartum depression, and children taken by systems of power. Acknowledge the strength within you. You are resilient and powerful, deserving of ease, healing, support, love, and compassion. As you join us in this meditation, allow yourself to release any tension. Open your heart space to the healing energy that is around you. We want to share a practice of breath. Breath is the first and the last thing that we do in this lifetime. It's a gift that we get to use through it all. We're going to take a moment and practice 4-4-4 breath. That consists of breathing in 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, and releasing for 4 seconds. I'll count us in, and we'll do this 3 times collectively. So on 1, we'll begin our breaths. So 3, 2, 1, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, release, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, release, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, release, 2, 3, 4. Feel free to use your breath at any point throughout this affirmation meditation. It is here for you. It is your tool of support. The affirmation we will begin with: my womb may carry scars, yet it also holds the wisdom of endurance and the beauty of the experience of hosting a spirit. My conception may have been dark, yet there is still light in my womb and in our future. I want you all to imagine yourself being surrounded by a warm, golden light. This light represents the strength and the love with you. Feel it grounding you and connecting you to earth. Visualize your roots extending from your body into the ground, anchoring you into this space of love and support. These roots, we are all connected. Allow yourself to acknowledge any pain, grief, the emotions associated with this experience. Name them if you wish, recognize them, give them space. These feelings are valid. They deserve your acknowledgement. Allow them to pass. Thank them for sharing the messages you needed to receive in that moment. With every step forward, we carry the strength of 1,000 women who have faced similar trials. We honor the sacredness of our journeys. Ashe. I welcome everybody to come back to be in space. Open your eyes if you closed them. Breathe it out if you need to. How y'all feeling?
Thank you so much for that, Julisha. It's really powerful. Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, that concludes our time for tonight. Anybody has questions, happy to continue the conversation. Our information's everywhere. And happy to share more information with you. I hope everyone has a great night and gets home safe and.
That was so wonderful. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much.
Have a good
Also
night.
for-
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Take care, guys.
I didn't get to enjoy the meditation.